3,000ths and 5,000th system universal lock pins. What's the difference between the two? Why are they so great? What are the downsides? And last but not least, which one is better? I'm going to answer all of those questions. But before I do, let's rewind the clock and go back to the start of the pin tumbler lock as we know it today. Locks and keys in one shape or form have been around forever. Whether wood or metal, people have always found a way to lock up the things that are most valuable to them. But in 1861, Yale invented the pin tumbler lock as we know it today. Now this was a big game changer. It really changed the way locksmiths were able to maintain and change and service locks, similar to how we do today. Although the locks became much easier to service for locksmiths, when a locksmith needed to change the pin tumblers, they didn't have a lot of sizes to choose from. And so they would have to take a hand file and just file them down. As you can imagine, this wasn't the most precise method. As a matter of fact, if you've ever tried to do it today, you find all sorts of little problems that arise when you're doing so. Years later, Ziploc Company came out with a universal 5,000ths increment pinning kit system. And this was a huge game changer. All of a sudden, locksmiths weren't having to work with the pins they had and file them down to work. They could now choose in 5,000 increments the sizes that they needed to work for the lock. I was able to dig up one of the old Zipco wooden pinning kits, and here it is. As you can see on this top chart here, they started to put all the different lock manufacturers' specs in the 5,000 increments to be able to pin them up. The workmanship of this kit is truly amazing. Each one of these holes where the pins go are rounded, so you're able to easily pick them out. And on the bottom here, when I pull this little bottom drawer out, it's going to have all of the master pins. Now, when I look at the top here on this chart in the corner, you can't really see it in the camera. It says 1976. So this kit here was made on 1976 or before. But as you can see, going from just basic manufacturer pins down to a universal 5,000 increments pinning kit like this, it really changed the ability for the locksmiths to pin up these locks. In 1977, Mr. Bob Labby with Lab Manufacturing came out with a 3,000ths increment universal pinning system. This once again was another game changer. We now went from 5,000 increments down to 3,000 increments, which gave more flexibility and more pin options for pinning up locks, which leads us to today. Now this is what the universal pinning kits look like today. Both the 5,000ths and the 3,000 systems are alive and well in the marketplace. It's pretty crazy to think that these pins go all the way back to 1861. Pretty cool, isn't it? So what's the difference between the 5,000ths and 3,000ths universal pins? And it's just like it sounds. The 5,000ths increment pins go up in increments of 5,000ths. For example, if we start out at a 0.200 pin, the next one is going to be a 0.205, and then a 0.210, and then a 0.215, and it just keeps going up in those increments. The 3,000ths kit goes up in increments of 3,000ths. For example, if the first pin was a 0.201, the next pin would be a 0.204, then a 0.207, then a 0.210, and so on and so forth. Now, because of the increments they go up in, the 5,000th system has 102 different sizes available between the master and bottom pins, whereas the 3,000th system has 124 different sizes available between the master and the bottom pins. So the 3,000th system is going to give you 22 more sizes of pins to work with. And that is the main difference between the 5,000ths and 3,000ths systems. 3 reasons why the universal pinning systems are so great. Reason number 1. They're less expensive than the OEM or the OEM replacement pins, which is going to allow you to pin up locks at half to the quarter of the cost of the OEM pins. Reason number 2. Both the 5,000ths and the 3,000ths pins are color-coded, which makes them easier to work with. Think about it. If all the pins are the same color, and when you're picking a pin out and another one drops into one of the bins next to it, you're not going to really be able to tell the difference at first glance. But with them being color-coded, you're going to know if a pin's out of place. Reason number 3. Instead of having to purchase a bunch of brand-specific pinning kits to make sure you can service all the locks you're going to come into contact with, like Kwikset, Schlage, Weiser, Yale, so on and so forth, you only need to purchase one universal kit. And the best part is the universal kit is typically about the same cost as one brand-specific pinning kit. So it's not only a major cost savings, it's also a major space savings. The downsides of the universal pinning system. Number 1, universal pins are brass, which is fine, but some manufacturers like Schlage use nickel-silver bottom pins so they'll last longer. So in really high use situations, the brass pins are going to wear down much quicker than the OEM nickel-silver pins. Number 2, the universal pin design and the OEM pin design might look a little different. Let's take a look at the Kwikset bottom pin versus a universal bottom pin. As you can see, the universal bottom pin has a point on one end and it's flat on the other, whereas the Kwikset bottom pin is flat on both sides with a larger bevel. That allows the Kwikset bottom pin to be put in either way. There's not a top and there's not a bottom. You can just put the pin in. Whereas the universal pin, you have to put in the point down. And number 3, the universal pin lengths might not be exactly the same as the OEM pin lengths, which can create some problems. Let me give you an example. The chart you're looking at shows the Kwikset bottom pin lengths. Next to it, you'll see the 5,000ths pin lengths that are closest to them, and then the 3,000ths pins that are closest to them. Let's go through them and we'll talk about the differences. Kwikset bottom pin number 1 is a .172 length. The closest 5,000ths pin to it is a .170, and the 3,000ths closest pin is a .171. Now, anytime you start getting over 1,000ths, sometimes 2,000ths, you're going to start getting the click when you go to turn it. So if you've ever pinned up a lock and you go to turn the key and it's kind of clicking on you, that's because some of the pin length sizes are a little off. Now, it could be your keys cut wrong and that's why it's happening, but if you know the keys cut right, it's going to be a bottom pin issue. Bottom pin number 2 is a .195. Then as you can see, both the 5,000ths and the 3,000ths bottom pins are exactly the same, all .195. The Kwikset bottom pin number 3 is a .218. The closest 5,000ths pin is going to be a .220, and the closest 3,000ths pin is going to be a .219. So as you can see, the 5,000ths kit is going to be off 2,000ths, and the 3,000ths is only going to be off 1. So once again, the 3,000ths pin isn't going to have any clicking, but the 5,000ths may. Kwikset bottom pin number 4 is a .241. As you can see, the 5,000ths and the 3,000ths pins are a .240. That's close enough to not cause any problems. Kwikset bottom pin number 5 is a .264. The 5,000ths closest is a .265, and the 3,000ths closest is a .264, exact. So on this pin, the 3,000ths kit has an identical pin, but the 5,000ths is off 1,000ths of an inch. Bottom pin number 6. Kwikset bottom pin number 6 is a .287. Now, this is a weird one because for 5,000ths, the closest is either going to be a .285 or a .290. Both of those is really not great. And the 3,000ths kit has a .288, which is just 1,000ths off, which will work perfectly fine. And so those are the downsides of the universal pinning system. Now that we've covered the differences between the 5,000ths and 3,000ths systems, the good parts about the universal pinning systems, and the downsides, it's now time to answer the question, which system is better? And I hope by now you know the answer. And that's the 3000ths system. Not only does it have 22 more sizes of pins available to you, it also has the sizes closest to the OEM pins, like in that Kwikset example. Now, there's some of you out there that still love using the 5000ths increment system, which is fine, but it's really good to know what the downfalls are. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Please, if you have any history to add to the pin tumblers, please put them in the notes below. I'm sure people watching this video would love to learn more. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. I'd like to give a quick shout out to George over at Lab for helping me fill the gaps about the history of the pin tumbler locks. Thanks, George.